So I'm gonna be honest. I've been going back and forth about this conversation for years. And lately, people have been asking me how I feel about this. So I'm gonna do a video about this now and answer the question: do I feel like hip hop lyrics should be used in court as evidence? And I think the short answer is yes, but not really. Kinda. I don't know. We're gonna get into it. But right now, it's 14:30. You know what time it is. Let's get it. All right. So before we get into the conversation, I hope everybody had a nice New Year's Eve. We are now in the year 2023. I want to personally thank everybody for holding me down in 2022 with the brand change and everything and being gone for so long. I hope y'all stick around because we got plenty of very interesting conversations going into this year that I definitely want y'all to be a part of and to leave your opinions on so we can have some healthy discussion. So make sure you like this video, share this video, subscribe, and leave a comment because I definitely want to get your opinions on this because I have a pretty good feeling that not a lot of people are going to agree with what I got to say. And that's fine. That's fine. We're not always going to agree, but it's good to have these nice little healthy conversations every once in a while. But okay, so back to the topic at hand. Rap lyrics used in court. So lately, it's been a topic of discussion because of this whole YSL Rico case. Uh, and it's been a conversation that's actually been going on for years. There's been plenty of cases where, big artists, small artists have been tried and sometimes even convicted for some of the things that they've said in their music. And now there's an initiative from like rappers like Jay-Z and Killer Mike and other artists like Kelly Rowland and some even label heads are getting behind this like Kevin Liles, where they're really trying to fight the idea of rap lyrics being used in court, as evidence to convict these artists. uh, and recently I actually watched this video. Love this platform, Dead in Hip Hop. uh, I probably mentioned them a couple times in videos where I've referenced something they talked about. Really dope discussions, really dope album reviews too. I'll actually leave a link in the description for the video that I'm referencing in this episode, where they talked about this whole rap lyrics used in court. And I'm gonna put a screenshot right here. I actually left this gigantic, long comment on the video basically talking about how I really disagree with a lot of the points they had to talk about. And I guess you could kind of consider this my response video to that video because, and it's not just them. I don't want to pick out them in particular. It just kind of brought up a lot of the things that I disagree with when it comes to these conversations about this. Let's just go ahead and get the obvious out of the way. The American justice system, as we know right now, I don't trust to handle this situation the right way. Um, like right now, it's really hard to, because a lot of the times, and we'll get into it more a little bit later, but a lot of times the it's not just the lyrics that are getting these guys hemmed up. There's usually some type of evidence, connection, something that kind of leads them to that point. Or maybe the lyrics led to, maybe we need to look into this further and oh, we found, other stuff, a little harder evidence to, kind of like lay the blame on you and the conviction on you, right? But I could see over time the need for harder evidence would be completely thrown out and a lot of guys getting hemmed up for things that are a lot vague and not as detailed as some of the examples that I'm going to detail in this video. And that could get people hemmed up, maybe even convicted of a crime that ultimately they did not commit. And before anybody tries to say, you know, oh, that would never happen. I mean, in a genre that the label rapper is already vilified. Like anybody that's outside of the culture that hears the word rapper next to your name, they automatically think you're a criminal. They automatically think you're a gang member. They automatically think that you up to something, and it's no good. Like they automatically think that. Like people that have never heard a song, maybe never even seen your picture, but see your name, see the word rapper, the label rapper next to it, immediately you're a criminal. And in a genre that is primarily populated by artists that are black and Latino and that are like men and women like of these ethnic groups that are historically prosecuted harshly, sometimes for nothing at all. I can see something as flimsy as these vague, very nondescript rap lyrics being used to at least get these guys convicted of something that they didn't do. I could definitely see that. And America has a history of doing just that with far less. So, no, I don't trust the American justice system as it is right now to handle this the way it needs to be handled. With that being said, the idea of lyrics completely being dismissed from being used in court, I don't 100% agree with. And I'm going to tell you why. First and foremost, are these conversations being are happening with artists when it comes to, hey, maybe you shouldn't give great detail of a crime that you may be associated with, maybe not give names, dates, locations. Just a thought. I wonder, the guys that are pushing this bill to ban rap lyrics from being used in court at all, are they having these conversations with these rappers? Because if I say in a very vague way, I tell a story about a man that got killed and never really there's no man, it's all made up, it's all like fiction. Maybe it's a metaphor for something else, I don't know. Like Commons, I used to love her, but about a about a crime or whatever. Like if I did that, that's one thing. But I mean, rappers nowadays are getting so bold that they're putting their ops names in the video. So the idea of, hey, that guy shouldn't be convicted of something and he gave you basically a recorded confession is nonsense. Uh, People brought up Bobby Smurder. Bobby Smurder and his associates got hemmed up, and one of the things that a lot of people pointed to when getting them all convicted was, the whole such and such caught a body about a week ago. The most quoted part of the song when the shit went viral, by the way, was able to be connected to a crime that got everybody hemmed up because of that. Was that bar necessary, for one? And two, why did you name your boy? Like, we talk about self snitching all the time. Like, people get on social media and get clowned because they decided to post a table full of guns, a table full of drugs, maybe even get on IG Live and just start detailing stuff to the point of like, you might as well just pull up to the feds and tell and brag about the shit yourself. And we clown them for it. We clown, and it's kind of like the conversation with DJ Vlad, where, don't get me wrong, I'm no Vlad TV fan, I'm no DJ Vlad fan at all. But the idea that a guy could put a camera in front of your face and without being pressured, without being intimidated, without even the threat of going to court, there's no reason for it. You decide to get online and knowing that this video, because the cops don't even have to go to Vlad to get the footage. It's being uploaded to YouTube. It is being broadcasted on this publicly accessible, all over the world, accessible website. Well, all I gotta do is look up your name, search Vlad TV interview, and you're right there giving great detail about crimes, about murders, giving great detail about what happened, who was involved, and for some reason that's Vlad's fault that you decided to get online and blab to him. Like, treat it like an interrogation room. It was the fact that you wanted to get up on this platform and brag and try to like show how real you were, and now you in real trouble. But for some reason, I'm supposed to be upset at Vlad because he didn't edit it out, because he didn't know asking those questions, and who knows, maybe he knew, maybe he didn't. I won't sit here and act like he doesn't bear no responsibility for the things that happen on his platform. But I'm saying nobody held a gun to your head and told you to sit here and give the police like a recorded confession that could be played back in court. But if I'm gonna have this energy for him, why am I not supposed to have the same energy for a rapper who gets online and starts to detail these crimes and doesn't do at least their due diligence to keep the names and the details out of it? Like, hip hop has been fueled by this whole culture of being real and having to be real. Like, there's a lot of perpetrating, a lot of faking, and I personally do not like it either. But I think the alternative of I'm so real that I'm willing to give you I'm willing to paint such a detailed picture of what happened to where the cops could use that as a recorded confession, as a written confession since you wrote it. Like, I think that's just even more ass backwards than perpetrating. Like, and I want to do a video about how rappers are like walking contradictions in itself, especially nowadays. I don't want to really get into too much detail about that, but just the idea of how, you're bold enough, and a lot of people brag about it. Like, the cops can come get it. They could try it in court. Like, that's one of the songs that Young Thug is being used against him. And I haven't heard that song, uh, but from the video of the white guy like reading it off, the prosecutor reading it off in court, like I don't think that that was as substantial enough. Just from what I heard, it's not substantial enough to try to convict him. I think it's more of an assassination attempt of his character to make it a lot easier for the judge and the jury to kind of see like this guy is a menace. But, just the boldness of just like F the judge, we could try it in court, like, kind of like I don't care, and then in a position to where now you have to eat those words. I don't understand how you don't get it. So a part of the argument that I wanted to highlight that I put in, that comment, is that a lot of people also try to justify it by saying other genres don't get this certain treatment, or other forms of media doesn't get this treatment. And it's easy to say that it's because, well, hip hop is predominantly a black art form. Most art forms started with black folks, but as of right now, hip hop is predominantly run by black artists. So it's real easy to point at those other genres and say, well, why isn't metal being put on trial? Why isn't, horror movies and like action movies with a lot of guns and shooting and stuff, or, um, maybe even books and novels? Like, I think in the Dead End Hip Hop video, they mentioned Stephen King. And like, hey, what if he wrote a book about a murder, and should he be trialed on it? And I think the part that makes that argument dumb, the biggest part that makes it dumb, because another part is the fact that a lot of the stuff that you just mentioned is always detailed, is always described and categorized as fiction. Like, nobody looked at The Shining that Stephen King wrote and thought he really went to the Overlook Hotel and chopped up his family like in this hotel and lost his mind. I don't really think you could point to a book that Stephen King wrote, and since he was the example that you gave, and think that it was remotely grounded in reality. Now, what's interesting is that, and I'm probably going to butcher this because I just literally thought about this as I'm recording it. Uh, so I'll probably like put a screenshot somewhere here, but there was actually a case not too long ago, actually, of a woman who was arrested for killing her husband. And it was detailed in a novel she wrote years ago. I don't know all the details, and like I said, I'll probably like leave a screenshot right here with a little bit, like for an article that you could probably check out. Maybe even link an article in the description also. Uh, but that is funny that that conversation was that point was made, and I literally just sparked an idea of it happening. So it has happened before. Other genres, like especially rock music, like death metal and things like that, there are plenty of examples of you know them being tried for the lyrics that they've written, and people accusing them of influencing their children to do harm to themselves, or create like do these heinous acts. Like I know the Columbine shooting, artists like Marilyn Manson were being like drug into court over stuff that they said in their lyrics, and with trying to make the connection that something he said in his song directly influenced this kid to commit all these, or this man, sorry, this man to commit these crimes, these heinous acts. And it never really goes too far, and I think a lot of people understand that, you know, try a guy in a song saying something that wasn't a direct command doesn't constitute him to be held responsible for somebody taking that and going, I'm gonna do something that is totally unrelated, but just he got me hyped up and ready to go. Like, the idea of, because people try to say that, oh well, one of the things that pissed me off actually, talking about this point that they talked about in the Dead and Hip Hop video, was they almost associated it with victim blaming. They said it wasn't victim blaming. They were trying to figure out another word, but the idea that because these guys come from these terrible neighborhoods, terrible environments, underfunded, you know, everything in these communities, and then you wonder why they do the things they do, and now it's their life, so they should be able to rap about it. And my argument to that is, besides the fact that there's plenty of people that come from those same environments and don't do nearly half the shit that these people are being accused of doing and that are detailed in these songs, but also the fact that there's plenty of artists that also come from these neighborhoods. Because I'm not going to sit here and try to compare them to like a J. Cole or Kendrick Lamar or Mos Def or a Common, who come from like these terrible environments that don't rap about that, do not rap about being participants in these acts and stuff like that. At least not to the extent of where every song is I'm killing, I'm selling drugs, I'm, whatever. I'm not gonna say that because it's like apples and oranges. That argument has been done to death. We've seen it so many times. It kind of defeats the purpose. But what if I use rappers that can rap about these exact same topics, that are their like direct contemporaries, that don't rap about it in such great detail and have never faced trial, like Jay-Z, who is a part of this whole initiative to ban lyrics outright from being used in court, is a rapper who didn't really give direct detail. He was able to do it in a fly, creative way to where I know what you say you did, but I don't have any hard evidence to link those lyrics to anything you did. Or maybe if you want to use somebody a little bit more modern that put out music last year, what about people that were on my top 10 list, like Pusha T and Freddie Gibbs and West Side Boogie? There's plenty of rappers who rap about these same things, that put themselves in a line of fire, that brag about it, that talk about it, because they were there. You know, I don't know the validity of any of these niggas, but let's just say, for the sake of taking them for their word, they were there, at the you know, committing these crimes and stuff like that, but don't give enough detail to where I could point to them and say, you're definitely guilty. Or, oh, wait, there was a murder that happened not too long ago that right around the details kind of fit the song that you said. Like, there's plenty of examples in history of rappers that are talking about the things that you were talking about without having to give as much detail. Like, I think that's where the issue, when they try to call it art, like for me, like I think the art is in the creativity and how you're able to detail these experiences without it coming off like I'm just confessing to everything in direct and great detail. Like, it's more creative, it's more artful, and I think that I like that's kind of part of the responsibility aspect of it, but also just kind of like the idea of like art itself being just any and everything. You know what? We're not even gonna talk about that. That's a topic for another discussion because I'm going off on a tangent. Let's focus on what we came here to talk about. And the idea that these rappers, well, they just don't have anything else to talk about, or they have to talk about it in this way. This way is nonsense. Um, like, I don't know. Maybe it's the responsibility of the fans. Maybe it's the responsibility of like some of the label heads that are championing this bill. That, hey, maybe you should tell your artist not to self-incriminate themselves in their lyrics, because, and that's, I felt a little uneasy about it when you look at some of the people in the music industry, the label heads that are backing this, and it doesn't really feel as much as they want to get on interviews and cry, or they want to write these statements about how this isn't right and talking about freedom of speech and artist expression. It there's a part of me, I just feel like it's more of a, I want to protect my investment and nothing else. Like, these rappers, they invest a lot of money into, that make them a lot of money. And the sad truth is they're more valuable dead than alive, but not in jail. A posthumous album from an artist that is deceased can do record breaking numbers 4 times of what they would have saw if they were still alive and putting out this material. But a rapper in jail, we're just gonna wait for them to come out and do what they need to do. Like, it really doesn't like equate the same type of investment return that, if these rappers were out and about, or if they died but had all this material that you could profit off of. Like, it's just it's that little part of it where, like, the intention of banning the rap lyrics outright also makes me uneasy, because I know that these label heads are really just doing it for their self-interest and don't really care about the well-being of these artists that would be the ones in protection of this. I mean, these are the same label heads that are the reason why this particular lifestyle and this particular uh, brand of hip hop music is the most profitable, and that's why the idea of them, those lyrics being used in court, is affecting so many people and their money in their pockets. That it kind of makes me uneasy to blindly support that idea outright. Now the last point, because there's a lot of stuff that we talk about in this video, and definitely if you have other points that I didn't touch on, whether in agreement or disagreement with the idea of using rap lyrics in court, please leave them in the comments, because this is definitely a very like multi-layered discussion. I'm just trying to get my thoughts off as distinctively as possible. Uh, but the last point I want to make is that I think when you think about these issues of, let's say these rap lyrics are like details of real crimes, whether it's detailed or vague, and you support these rappers, the freedom to express this. If these crimes are real, that means there are real victims to these crimes. And like the example I use all the time is that if it was my family, or if it was my homeboy, or like if it was somebody that I really loved and I was really close to, and you killed them, and then you make a song about it, and you blow up and you make millions off of it, like where's the sympathy for that? Where's the like where's the outcry to get these lyrics, or the idea of these rappers being able to even put this stuff out? Like, where is the outcry against that when there are real people that are behind these glorified crimes that these rappers are profiting off of? Like, a lot of the times, like, people like to say stuff like, oh man, they're in a better position now, so they are able to put their homeboys or their families in such better prominent positions than they would have been if if or not, you know, their music career blowing up and they're making the certain moves that they made. And that's cool, but what about the people that on the other end of it, that you got to where you are and you left a trail of bodies, figuratively and literally, in your wake to get to your position? Like, it's kind of hard for me to look at you as this pillar of hope and inspiration when you got there the way you did. Like, the idea of these guys giving back to the community after uh, doing their part to cause more death and grief to the community is kind of hard for me to like wrap my head around. And not only not just that, but the influence that you've left behind. Because just think of it like this: like, you have this guy who came up. He tells you exactly how he came up was through death and destruction. And now he's in this position where not only is he buying like these fancy cars, wearing this jewelry, and he's got these fly ass clothes on, but he's also like doing these toy drives and giving back to the community, these back to school things, like stuff that wasn't there when they were coming up. It sounds nice, but then you got a little kid that's watching this, that listens to your music, that knows your entire story from beginning to end. They automatically feel like this is the way to go. There's a lot of people that try to argue the idea that these rappers don't bear responsibility for their influence. And I won't say that it's 100% like the rock example I gave earlier. I don't feel like they should bear the entire weight of the responsibility of, what they say in their lyrics, and how that may influence somebody listening to it. I don't say they should bear the full responsibility of it. But what I am saying is that you can't completely dismiss that they have responsibility at all. Because growing up as a little kid in the neighborhood, I knew that all my friends were emulating rappers. They watched the music videos, they heard the lyrics, they saw what you had on MTV or BET, and they wanted that. They emulated that. And hey, maybe you grew out of it. Maybe you got older and realized that I can be my own man with my own thoughts. But there's a lot of people that get hemmed up before they even get to that point, and then there's a lot of people that just never grow out of it. The example I like to use that a lot of people don't like to agree, but I feel like correlates, is the idea that if you say that rappers don't bear the same responsibility for what they say and how that may influence someone, then you can kind of say the same thing about Trump and the insurrection in January 6th. He he could tell you, hey, we're gonna march up to the Capitol. He never said anything about going in there and messing stuff up. But I feel like because of his influence and the way that those people follow him like a god, like, yeah, they were gonna go up there and it was gonna try to take back the election by any means necessary. And now he's on trial for that now. And they're trying to see if he really does bear that responsibility. There's a lot of people who will say that rappers don't bear that same type of responsibility, will sit there and try to say that, yeah, Trump is definitely guilty of it. And I agree. I do believe that he is responsible and needs to be held accountable for, like, influencing those people to act a damn fool the way he did. But in that same vein, I do feel like rappers have the potential to have that same influence on a lot of people. So the idea that your lyrics are about real crimes that have real victims that can have such a negative impact, either directly or indirectly, on a lot of people, and I don't feel like you should be held accountable for that, I can't get on board. But let me know what you think in the comments below. But thank you for watching. It's been your boy Vinnie-Dangerous, 1430. Until next time, much love.